And we're live. Hey guys, welcome to another ICONICON live stream. Today we are talking about the first two waves that got released in the Playmates toy line called the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I hope you guys in the chat are excited. And I know from being backstage here with these two guys that they were obviously also very excited to be part of the TMNT panel. So first I'm going to introduce Tom of Midnight's Edge. Tom, how are you doing today? And where can the people find you?
Well, I'm doing awesome, or totally radical, whichever you choose. And of course, you can find me at Midnight's Edge and Midnight's Edge After Dark mainly, and the few other channels we do have out there. So yeah, thank you for having me here. This is a lot of fun. I'm a fan of yours as well, so it's really cool to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I think it's all Melinda Retro Blasting and Analog Toys and probably even more people doing everything behind the scenes for us. And yeah, thanks to those guys and girls. We also have Alex from the Infinity Equation here. Alex, how are you doing today? And where can we find more about Infinity Equation?
I'm doing good, Ed, and I am Alex Sanchez. I'm one of the hosts on the Infinity Equation podcast every Friday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. I'm a veteran of the comic book industry for the better part of the last 20 years, having worked on some recent books like G.I. Joe and Pandemica and some other stuff. But thanks for having me. Huge fan of both of you guys, like I was telling you backstage, and ready to talk some turtles.
Awesome. Yeah, we already got a super chat in from Jody. Thanks so much, buddy. Total power. Yeah. And Tony.
Tony.
Yeah, I call them Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, even though over here it's all Hero Turtles on the packaging. But I don't know why you just keep calling them Ninja Turtles. But
maybe
to make sure everybody gets
them.
it.
Yeah.
We'll keep calling them Ninja Turtles, I guess. The first question I had to kind of start off this panel was, what was your first introduction to the Turtles? Was it when the first waves came out, or was it a bit later? So if you want to share a bit of your stories with how you encountered the Turtles and perhaps what your first toy was. I'll let Tom go first.
Well, I mean, I was prime age when they came out. I was about roughly 7, 8 when the first wave hit stores, and I lived in a pretty rural area, so I didn't actually see the TV specials first. I wasn't even aware of them, and I just happened to live in a place where none of the channels carried it because it was first shown in syndication. And all of a sudden, just seeing kids starting playing with the Ninja Turtle toys at school. And I was like, well, what are those? And I asked, and then the commercials started popping up randomly, the Playmates ones. And I was like, I told Mom, like, I got to get one of those. And Raphael was my first one. Finally got a chance to pick one up. And then I think my brother got Donatello for Christmas. And then from there, it just kind of snowballed. But yeah, so that would have been, I believe, 88 that happened. So that was when I first recall the Turtles coming into my world. And it was just from there, it was just learning everything about them. And I wasn't even aware of the comics and stuff probably till the movie and stuff came out.
Okay. Awesome. How about you, Alex?
I actually first heard of the Ninja Turtles through the comics, maybe around 84, 85. I remember going into my local comic shop, seeing a poster for, I think it was like the first reveal of the Turtles, like a black and white image. It was in the back of like whatever that name of that Mirage book that preceded the Turtles book. And I think it had like Fugitoid. I think and in the back of that book, there was like a huge double page splash or something that they made into a poster at my local comic book store. So I always remember seeing that poster, and then a few of the first issues were already hung up behind the register because they were valuable even at that point. So one day I was just like watching TV. I remember it was like a Monday, and just out of nowhere, like the first the miniseries, the 5-part miniseries just showed up, and I was like, holy, it's those Turtles from the comic book store. So I just got hooked on the show, and then I don't know what came first, if the toys came before the cartoons, but either way, I mean, I bought the first entire wave. You know, my mom was really good to me when I was a kid. And that was pretty much my introduction to the Turtles toys.
Okay. So were you like local to where they were releasing the comics, or?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm here in New York City. So we had a whole bunch of actually there was a comic book store called Funny Business Comics that had like an independent comic section. So they had that. I don't remember if like Flaming Carrot was out at that time or not, but they had a whole bunch of like indie books, and they just, I mean, it's not like I was ever, you know, browsing in that section, you know, because I was always looking at like X-Men or Daredevil or whatever. But I do remember the poster and some of the first issues just grabbing my attention. And I just clicked when I saw the TV show. And then I'm like, I got to have the figure form of these guys. You know, I was even back then, even looking back on it now, I think I was a collector back then. And that's why I was like, Mom, get me the entire first wave. And I didn't call them a wave or anything. I just like wanted all the 4 Turtles and Splinter and Shredder, because those were like the main characters.
Oh. Like how old were you then?
Well, I'm an old man. I'm 44. I was born in 77. So they came out in 87. So I was about 10. So I was at that ripe, you know, like that great age where I was just impressionable. They just like the packaging too. It's just like the crazy artwork. I'm an artist, so I always look everything through, I guess, artistic lens, if you know. So the packaging really just caught my eye. Just like, yeah, just everything about it is just like bright and in your face. So I was instantly attracted to it.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, and thanks, Chris. Yeah, he's my neighbor from the Netherlands. So nice. They also got the Hero Turtles there. I guess like I guess I'm the younger guy over here. I was born in ¡88, and like my first memory of having a toy was having a turtle toy. So I was born and raised with turtles, I guess. First 2 turtles I had were Michelangelo and Donatello of that like the first wave. Not the soft heads or anything, but the stuff that got released in Europe, obviously. And yeah, to me, like everybody was into turtles. So I watched the cartoon, obviously. When the movie came out, we watched the movie. And like, I think like for 2 years straight, every trip to the supermarket, there would be like this one peg holder with just turtles on card, and I would like, I guess every week or every 2 weeks get one of those. So it like pick out a new character each week, and that was like my thing. I guess back then they were maybe $3.99 or $2.99, somewhere like in that range, yeah. The like at the end of the 80s, early 90s. So they weren't like too expensive, I guess. And yeah, like pretty much I just started collecting turtles, and that was all I needed to have. So that was kind of like my introduction.
How's about that was about how old were you, Ed, when you got into it? Because you said you were born in '88. So
yeah, like from like kindergarten out, like the first thing I remember is playing turtles with my friends, and yeah, I guess it was like 3 years old, something like that.
Oh, wow.
So
wow. Yeah, they were going. One thing about the original line that really surprises me, because I kind of started checking out when the first movie came out, because to me that was like the ultimate, you know, it's like the pinnacle for me, you know, as a kid, that first movie. So I kind of started checking out a little bit after that, but it just surprises me how long they kept going on after I stopped paying attention. I think they went on to like 98 or something like that.
Yeah,
crazy.
Yeah. 96 was kind of the last real year of the toys, and I want to say the show lasted till at least 96 or 7.
Yeah.
But yeah, until the revamp in like 2002 or 3.
2002.
Yeah, there was a little bit of a dark period there.
They did try in 98 to do
the
next mutation.
Yeah, there was the next mutation. You're right. I forget that for good reason.
Yeah, I know. It's scary. But yeah, no, Tom, that 2002, 3, I forgot when it came out. That is a great underrated series. Awesome.
Absolutely, yeah. Like those first few episodes are almost directly out of the
comics. Yep.
Comics and kind of how they did. And that was the same thing I felt about the movie too, was like, wow, they managed to do this almost complete perfect like meld between what made the comics great and the unique stuff that was in the TV show and stuff like that. And I mean, really the show and the toys took a different route in that second season because you know, historically, for those who don't know, but you should if you watch any of these channels here, especially like Retro Blasting and stuff, where basically the first season was commissioned by Playmates, and then they're like, "No, we're good."
Yeah.
We don't need any more.
Yeah.
And then Fred Wolf's like, "Are you kidding me? The networks want more. They want tons more." So he ended up getting the deal and going that route. So it wasn't like Transformers and G.I. Joe and a lot of those other shows at that time where they would, you know, make sure that they would have just as many, you know, calls to the toys that were out there on the shelves at the time as characters in the show, to where Ninja Turtles kind of went its own way. And in some cases it went much more kid oriented, and it kind of went, you know, to that point. And I can see where Alex, you got out at that, and it was meme by that third film.
I know. It was rough.
It was like
I still loved that third movie.
But
honestly,
the series managed to go a little darker.
I was really young because like 93, 94, so something, I was probably like 7 or
you were perfect for that last run, that big. And that's the thing; these kind of things normally don't have a lifespan past a few years. Totally. And even though we're going to be talking mainly about the first two waves, I mean, there's video out there of the guys at Playmates and talking to Eastman and Laird and I can't remember the guy from Surge licensing, and they're telling them like, look, these things have a 3-year window. You know, it's like they're like telling them, don't expect this to keep going. And then next thing you know, 10 years later, they're still doing it. You know, and maybe more than that now, 30, 40 years later, it's still going. It's arguably one of the biggest franchises still, if you know, you really sit down and think about it. But yeah, at that time, it was just, it came out of nowhere, and it was kind of the strangeness of it coming from a comic book first, because that wasn't normal. We didn't have a lot of that yet. Yeah, you had Super Friends and stuff like that at that point, but you didn't have the Batman animated series yet. Yeah, X-Men was still a year or two out. You know, even maybe 3. So yeah, it wasn't really like we hadn't had that comic book takeover yet in the animated. This was kind of the first one, really. Yeah, and especially in an independent comic book. Exactly. Yeah, and then that aspect of it was insane. Just to think about how this comic book came together. I mean, we could sit here and go through the whole history, but there's plenty of great videos already out there about it. But yeah, there's also a really good documentary called Turtle Power: The Definitive History. I actually watched that this morning in preparation for this. Oh, really? And I actually know one of the guys who worked on it. So yeah, it's a great documentary, actually. Yeah, it's really good.
I guess it's like Omega Ordain says, love the turtles. I think we all do. So thanks for that donation, buddy. Yeah, the thing is, like we're saying here, the first experience was the RPG game by the Palladium books. I remember that. Which was like one of the first things they licensed to do.
I think it was the first thing.
Yeah, it together was, with wasn't it like the Dark Horse miniatures that would work together with that thing?
Yep.
And actually the kids that were really into that, once the cartoon started coming out, they were like, turtles aren't cool anymore. It's for kids, you know. What always fascinated me about that first wave is how different they had to make it to reach a broader audience. Definitely because like in some of like the first comics, like the turtles are drinking beer, or like their relationship with April isn't like it's pictured in a cartoon or anything. So what you got was what Turtles was. You got the action figures that were based off of the comic, and then you had the cartoon that was kind of like Surge with Mirage Studios and Playmates going like, no, we need this. No, well, we can't do that because, and it's going like back and forth between everybody. But the first thing I wanted to get into was the first 10, the 10 back as it's known. The first 10 figures. Most of you probably know that Foreigner Studios did the Turtles and the Good Guys, and Scott Hennessy from Anaglyph Studios. He told one of the guys, like, hey, if you're gonna do Turtles, I want to sculpt the bad guys because they look cooler. So those are guys that sculpted those first action figures. Is there anything you guys really love about that first wave of Turtles? I can see you have them right there. The re-releases, Tom.
Yeah, these are the re-releases, but they're pretty true to the originals. You know, that original run, Bebop and Rocksteady are probably the two standouts. Those figures are amazing, and I wish I had them sitting here right now. But the Turtles look amazing, but the playability of them was really limited. You can almost tell in a way that, like, at first they weren't quite sure who they were going to market these to, because, like, if you look at them as they are, they look like they're in, they have the action pose, they don't have the dots in the eyes, they're all looking a bit mean and grittier than the cartoon versions. I feel like the initial wave was probably set out to kind of capture that indie comic circuit, and I don't know if they really anticipating them having the impact they did, because one person who is probably the third creator that is never brought up when you bring up Eastman and Laird is David Weiss. And David Weiss really brought the characters out of the Turtles, because Eastman and Laird will be the first ones to tell you when they did the comics, they never really had time at first to really form the Turtles into who they were. They were all kind of the same personality, just with different weapons in a way, kind of the way they presented them. Raphael was the only one who kind of had a standout because he actually got his own mini comic at one time. So David Weiss really sat down and said, okay, well, you got to have a leader. That's Leonardo. You got to have the fun-loving guy. That's Michelangelo. You got to have, the goof around kind of guy. That's Raphael. You got to have the smart guy. That's Donatello. So he kind of really got into the more of who they were, what they were all about. And I think that really kind of informed us in a way. But no, like, you look at these initial figures, I don't think they were really meant to be played with too much. I think they were really meant to just be put on a shelf and looked at more so. And then it kind of just spawned from there. They're like, wait, kids could really get into this stuff. And we were entering the gross out period of toys too.
Yeah.
There's something about those first figures. I feel like it's like a Playmate signature thing. Like, to this day, they still have like those fixed weird poses on some of their Turtles figures, which doesn't really make much for like articulation if you're like into like photography and posing with other action figures. But there is something really charming about that. I think, like you were describing how Mr. Weiss gave the Turtles their personalities. What he did is he really endeared himself to all the different kinds of kids that could relate to like one of the four Turtles. And Leonardo, I'm not saying that I've always felt like I was a leader or something, but Leonardo was always my favorite because he was the one that kind of took charge when things were getting heated. But it's definitely not posable, limited articulation. I mean, even for that time, you had things like G.I. Joe and maybe even Transformers, which were a little bit more posable, but they definitely made up for them, I believe, with like the paint apps and just like the funkiness and just like the plan of attack that they chose. Like, they like Mirage. It was like the first line of toys were like a mixture of all, everything that was happening at that moment, Playmates and the comics. And they also let their artists have a little bit of free reign later on in like waves 3 or whatever. So it's like a mix match of just a bunch of creative people putting, getting together and trying and ending up making like a really classic toy line that, to this day is, I mean, as far as like collecting vintage Turtles, I mean, some of the prices on these guys, especially, it's crazy. Soft heads, hard heads. There's so many different options that have come up, you know, for collectors who get really deep into this stuff, that it's just amazing that it's lasted this long and it's pretty much strong as ever.
Right. And I don't think Michael, if he's still in the chat, would even forgive me for if I don't bring this up, or at least one of us don't, that this was actually the first real line that Playmates put out there under their own name.
Yeah.
Because prior to this, they like were subdivision. They would make stuff for Mattel and all these other companies. And so they really wanted to start getting themselves out there. So to start out the company with something like this was insane. And that's where I think at first they weren't even quite sure what they were doing, who they were marketing this to, and what exactly they were up to. Because like a lot of the vehicles in that first and second wave really feel like afterthoughts.
Yeah.
Because you can't get the figures on them.
Yeah.
And they look cool.
Yeah.
But, you know, famously, like the van, let's be real. Like it looks great from the outside.
They can't really fit in the front
but
seat.
There's nothing you can really do with it.
Yeah. Yeah. The blimp. I mean, I'd love to be able to like fit. I think I had to have them hanging off the missiles or whatever in order
one
to
of
like,
the most impractical toys ever. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever try putting helium inside the
no, I didn't, but I think it was Michael's video where he said it will not work.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah.
I think most of like them not fitting together was Playmates. I think like the vehicles were done in the Japan division or the Hong Kong division, something like that, and then they were brought over, and they were kind of like rushing to get that first wave out for Toy Fair, so some of that compatibility just wasn't there. But like to me, they're the perfect toys. So
I know it sounds like all I'm doing is
they have limited articulation. I'm like, actually, yeah, you guys are actually quite right compared to what other stuff was out there. But I love them. I just think that indeed, like they looked very dark. Even like on card, like you were saying, you had the gross out humor, so they look kind of like goofy with like ooze everywhere and you know, bugs coming out of some of the villains and stuff like that. But apparently it did capture lots of kids, their imagination, and caused it to be like one of the best selling toys the year after that. By the way, like the website I'm showing all these pictures on, you can definitely use as like a reference guide. It's called turtletracks.info, done by my buddy Narc and Turtle Chris. They've been popping this site together. It's actually pretty neat, and thanks for letting me use it for this panel, guys. So as you were saying, like the turtle blimp, and the like, what a weird wacky vehicle to put together. And at first the Technodrome was going to be the same thing. You would have a vehicle with like a balloon, like a blow up thing on top as the dome.
I don't think I would have even
I can't remember who initially brought up the Technodrome, but I remember all them saying was I want the Death Star on wheels. And then somebody put an eyeball on the top, probably inspired by Lord of the Rings, I would assume. But but like, looking at the van, it looks great, but functionality is kind of and I don't mean to sound like I'm griping about it, because the Turtles, I mean, they gave me years of fun, because I mean, growing up, it started with Masters of the Universe. That was kind of like my main thing. Then Ghostbusters came along. And then it was Ninja Turtles. And then it was just like Ninja Turtles was probably the one that lasted the longest for me as far as into my teenage years. And like, that was the last thing I put away as far as a kid, outside of, you know, Star Wars was always kind of there too. But as far as the main toys that I was always into, but
yeah, there was definitely a turtle craze. I mean, kids wearing the t-shirts all over the place. I mean, pretty much like similar to like when Batman '89 came out, everyone was wearing like the Batman t-shirts and stuff like that. But I didn't have a Toys R Us here in New York City. For the most part, if there was a Toys R Us, it was like basically like a pop-up shop. It was around for a year. They didn't have the space for all their stock, and they were gone, you know, within a year. So we had Kitty City. And one thing that I really miss, Lionel Kitty City, I think it's the company. But one thing that I miss, the first time I remember buying the Turtles, or my mom bought them for me, they had a huge wall display of all, I mean, literally like it looked like a mountain when you're a kid. And I kind of wish, like, I know there aren't Toys R Us's and toy stores that big anymore, but I really miss just like having that huge display like they had for Turtles and Star Wars and Motu and all that stuff back in the 80s. It's just really, I think it's something to be said for just the way that toy stores display their product that gets kids' attention, you know, and gets them tugging on their mom's skirt to buy them that or this, whatever.
Yeah, and ironically, as far as the Turtles go, I mean, he said they were the biggest ones that year, but like, I think weren't they still like one of the longest running toy?
I think G.I. Joe was long.
Was it G.I. Joe longer without any breaks? I suppose maybe. Yeah.
Didn't
the G.I. Joe started in 82,
like 82,
yeah,
like and it kept going to like 96.
Yeah, you're right. Probably, yeah. But it was still probably up there. But like, God, just the variations they had.
Yeah.
But getting back to that first run, no, like, yeah, the turtle van and stuff was that even in the first wave?
Yeah, that's
was
like
the first wave. Okay.
How do you guys feel about the Shredder sculpt?
Oh,
that's the one that is asking
probably,
about that one.
Oh, not to make me gripe some more, but Shredder is clearly like the coolest looking as far as like the coolest looking villain, but like one of the worst posed toys ever.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's based off of the comic.
He is.
And actually at first he was standing up straight, but the bubbles of the blisters were already created. So Anaglyph Studios needed to shrink him down. Same thing happened with the Foot Soldier, and that's why they're in that weird pose where there's only like one pose possible to have him standing up.
So funny.
I never knew that until now. That makes sense.
Usually has something to do with money.
Yeah, I mean they had already created like the height of all the blisters, so they were already being produced when it came back. Like, oh, it's this big. No, gotta shorten it.
Yeah.
I mean, Shredder though, as far as the character wise, I mean, second maybe only to Darth Vader as far as just ominous and presence and how cool they are as far as the look. And yeah, the toy on the other hand leaves a lot to be desired. This is probably the least of all the toys in the first line.
He doesn't look threatening at all, does he?
No, it's a very bad rendering of the character.
But
I think we got some later ones that were a little better, but
do you feel like the menacing part of Shredder, did that come out in the comic or in the cartoon? Because in the cartoon he's like this goofball that has to work together with Bebop and Rocksteady, and well, he has to do anything that Krang says. So he's sort of like a goofball.
Well, that first mini-series, he's a bit more serious.
Yeah.
And then the movie, I think, really solidified him as this bad dude. Without using the bad A word. But just the look of him. I mean, just the idea that the all the blades coming out and just how dangerous he looks. And like I said, he's maybe next to Darth Vader as far as cool, as far as how he looks and his design and what his backstory is and what he stands for and just the idea of him. I don't know. He was always one of my favorite villains. Definitely up there.
I think like in the live action movie, oh man,
they nailed him there.
Yeah, I was scared. I mean, but they build him up to be like that scary, and with like the long shadow lenses and everything.
Yeah.
It worked out really good for that.
Did you guys ever see the deleted scene of him sitting down in like a meditating position where I wish they really would have included that. But this figure, I have like obviously I collect turtles, but I have like a shredder section where I have like all the shredders that they ever made. And my two gripes with this guy, even though I love this figure, I love Shredder. I agree with you, Tom. He next to Darth Vader, as far as menacing, he's up there. I just wish that he would stand up. And what's up with painting his eyebrows above the front of his helmet? Did you guys notice that?
Yeah,
that always bothered me too. That was obviously some paint screw up somewheres. I have no idea.
Yeah, and it's strange that Super 7 with their Ultimates figure line now, which are basically recreating more articulated versions of the original toys. They included two heads, one which has the eyebrows just like it did in the original figure, and then one without. So it's, collectors, they're very fickle and they know what they want,
And maybe it's just me, but was there a couple of color variants early on of Shredder too? I was going to say, because for some reason mine, I think, had more lighter purples than the one we just looked at, and maybe even a pinkish hue to the cape or something like that. And I think they tried to get it a little closer to the cartoon as
that's what I was
down, but like, I had, and then I know they did that complete repaint on it as well, but that's not what I mean though. But like, then here's the famous April, who there was how many different variations on?
Yeah, there's a lot,
but not just
with, like, the shirt more open or more something like that. Or am I?
There was one where they just turned her into a hooker.
or one
string, with the real hair.
But I think the funniest thing about this character isn't so much the variations, but the fact that it comes with a gun. I don't ever remember April toting a gun.
Also, just like most 80s toy lines, they would, skip the female characters in an action figure line, mainly targeted the boys. But Turtles, first wave, female character, which was like really weird. Because like Transformers RC never came out, Mask never had like any of the female characters. So yeah, I mean, this is the one I never picked up as a kid. But, and I think on card she's like $15 still.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I mean, at least like a couple of years ago when I started getting into card collecting, it was like, Aprils, they're cheap.
But there's like a really, isn't there a more expensive version where she either has like a different colored stripe going down her leg, or she has
the
some
OG
kind of
didn't
logo?
have the stripe. Yeah.
Okay.
So those I think go for a little bit more, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. There's a couple of stripe variations, and you also have the green one that came with the Channel 5 news van.
And something about didn't she have a Turtles logo on her back, or was that on all of them?
Just earlier ones, I think.
Okay. This one has a turtle logo.
There you go. Yeah,
but
like the first few runs, I think had it, but they may have all had it. I don't remember all of them having it though, unless it was a sticker and it got wore off. Because I don't remember mine having it.
I remember mine having it. It wasn't like a sticker that you put on. It was already on there, more like a water decal than anything.
And mine would have been a little later. So she would have been one I picked up later on. Now Splinter, though, that was a pretty cool character.
Hell yeah. As far as compared to the other guys, he can stand up straight.
Yep. Much more posable.
Yeah. I mean, it's more of a vanilla pose, but right on. I like it.
But this one's clearly more from the comic than the cartoon design.
Yeah.
Same thing. I mean, everyone had like just the white eyes based off of the comic. And I think like the Wacky Action ones were the first ones to have like a dotted eye in the second wave. So like first wave wise, we have a couple more vehicles. We already spoke about Turtle Blimp, the Party Wagon. Yeah, the Cheapskate, which seemed to be like the vehicle every kid had. At least that's what it felt like to me.
Because you can get it for cheap, yeah.
I never had it. Because I had the Turtle Van, so I was like, I don't want to. I mean,
did you also use the Turtle Van as like to store your turtles in when you went somewhere to play with them?
No.
I did that, and I think I roughed it up so badly because I used it as like Castle Grayskull. Like,
yeah.
I put my turtles in here, and then I walk with this.
That Turtle Van has been re-released, the original one, so many times. And every time they re-release it, it sells out, and people are paying twice as much as what the retail went for. It's crazy how popular that van, even though it has its limitations, it's still.
Well, I think it's because it looks so cool.
Yeah,
that's the thing is, even though it has nothing to really do on the inside, it looks so cool.
Yeah.
Plus, it wasn't like 70% of all the cartoons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was
the turtle copter, the blimp. Yeah, like they really represented like what got turned into toys. Pretty okay, I think. On the bad guys side, we had the Knucklehead, which is something I had as a kid. I kind of liked it, but apart from just the grabbing gimmick, it didn't really do too much, and it didn't really work that well.
I'm not even sure if I ever had this.
I didn't. I think I held out for the was it a Corvette? No, it was like the Shredder's car.
Yeah.
Oh, the one that was basically like the Neutrinos car.
Neutrinos, and that's actually why I bought it, because I was like, hey, they must be coming out with Neutrinos soon. But
that took them. Was that in this? That was like
took a while. Yeah.
The Foot Cruiser.
Yeah, that was when they finally did the cartoon, the Toon Wave or whatever it was.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks cool though. I mean, a mechanical spider.
Now, when did the Mousers come in? Was that in the second wave? Because those were always favorites.
Yeah, that was actually connected to the Wacky Action.
Okay. Well, I don't want to jump ahead
subline. On you, so let's head over to 89.
Well, this is a more memorable one for me.
Yeah. These were like introducing some other characters that were not only in the cartoon but also in the video game, which was huge, like on the NES. One of the best-selling games, even though it's so hard to play.
Are you thinking the first one or the arcade?
I think
the arcade was okay, but the first version, like some levels are just insane. But you had guys like Metalhead that was also in the cartoon, Baxter Stockman.
Baxter was always a favorite of mine, even though he's much different, that I learned later on. But I loved that toy. Now, you want to talk about, here's the wave where they kind of met the posability with the functionality. And that fly toy really, like, you get your money's worth as a kid, considering it was same price point as the other turtles. It looked amazing. Like, look at the quality of that. Like, the detail. I mean, sure, you got some of the Playmates ruffled shirt bit, but whatever. It don't matter. Love the feet. Love the wings. They're durable. The extra arms are really cool. The functionality of it, like I said, is really awesome. And it looked a lot like the cartoon. Actually, it's even probably a lot more detailed than the cartoon, actually.
Yeah.
I love that episode where like Baxter he changes into the fly. Such a good episode. I always like wanted to get like an actual Baxter Stockman, like when he was still a human also, but they never made one of those.
Did they never ever do one of him as a human?
I can't recall. I don't think so.
As far as vintage, no. They did in the 2002. I think that was the first Baxter figure that they made, and they've made a few after that. For the 2012 series, they made a Baxter inside of some like big robot body,
right?
And then for the new NECA stuff, they've made just the Fly, but I'm pretty sure they're going to be coming out with one. But looking up and down the second wave, I mean, it is a really solid wave, and just stuff. I mean, I didn't even really think about it.
You get some of like the Rosh Studio favorites coming back as well.
Yeah, you got Usagi in there. One thing though about is that Genghis? I was kind of hoped that they were coming out with the other three, and they came out with what was the second one that they came out with? It
Napoleon
Napoleon, but he didn't look anything like this guy.
I wonder if it maybe this one just didn't sell so well, so they didn't do the other two, maybe. Even though I had the figure, I mean, I can't believe they didn't.
Yeah,
because you also had Ace Duck, who, aka Howard the Duck, since I didn't he would double as Howard once in a while.
Yeah,
and then of course everybody, and again you had the wings, great function,
great. That little hat, I think I lost it.
And they really like up their game on the accessories in this line too.
Yeah.
Yeah, they actually had
This Casey is classic.
What's cool about this is that around the time of the first wave, they would add, guns and real weapons, and there was like some heat about, you can't show guns and everything like that. So the sculptors decided to like turn like normal objects into weapons. So it would be it would be funny to show like a pizza that's got deadly blades on it, or like a sub sandwich that serves as a bat. So I always like that.
And that's a fan favorite right there, Casey Jones, and that's what always made it great when you had too many kids and not enough turtles. Because Casey Jones was one the kids sometimes would. Well, I'll be Casey Jones. No, I'll be Casey Jones.
Yeah.
Because Casey was cool.
Yeah.
And Rambam has a great question. Why is Usagi Yojimbo included with the Turtles line? That's a very good question. Well, it's because they did a special licensing agreement.
Yeah.
And that was the only real reason that I know of. I know that the character eventually became kind of part of the lexicon eventually, but it was because of that deal that I know of through Playmates here.
Yeah, I mean,
even also to this put out Space Usagi a couple of years later.
Yeah. I mean, even kind of to this day, he's within the Turtles universe, but Stan Sakai keeps him pretty much separate from the Turtles. But yeah, I mean, I love this figure too. Usagi.
The fact that it came with this though is like, look, this figure would have been lost.
Yeah,
we would have never known this thing existed had it wouldn't been for this line. Let's be real.
Yeah.
I mean, great character, great fact that we got one, great rendering of it.
Yeah, but if it wasn't introduced through the Turtles,
no, I don't think a lot of people would know who he is. Yeah.
The cartoon model.
Awesome.
Yeah, I was gonna say I thought they were friends, Leo Convoys. Yeah.
General Trog was kind of like, for me, I mean, it's cool that they did this one, but they should have made him like just a rock soldier.
I was gonna say this is kind of one of those figures where you kind of get a little bit of the what's to come in the Turtle line. And that is where they take a lot of license with the goofy aspect of the adding just odd nonsense, like the spider webs and the lizards and the spider and the other weird stuff on him for no good reason.
Yeah, that's artistic license that Eastman and Laird gave to their in-house artists who were designing a bunch of these toys. Now, definitely a preview of what's to come.
Yeah, I mean, I like those little sculpty thingies though.
I have a love-hate with them. I mean, they look cool, but when you're playing with them, they're just, as a kid, they really bother you. Like,
I think like on Muckman, they're supposed to be there, but
some of them
this guy, he should be rock, And one of the things they did so often is leave details unpainted, so you kind of like wouldn't notice it unless you were like staring straight at it or like contrast was big enough.
When I was a kid, I used to like looking for like all like, I think he might have like a worm or something on his back or something like that. Like I like finding all these little things after the fact, after I had bought them. But as an adult collector, I want like cartoon accuracy. So now it bothers me, but back then it didn't.
Yeah. Oh, and here's another favorite of mine, the Rat King, of course. The only downside is the rats that are actually attached to him all the time. I wish they would have been like where you can unattach them to him, but
some of them you can unattach.
One of them, yeah.
Oh, is there? Okay, yeah. I was gonna say I think
like the one on the shoulder, and
but not the one on the arm. The one in the arm I think is stuck permanently from my memory. But then, like you just said, like there's the one on the back that's not painted for some reason.
It
just kind of looks weird, but like great character though.
Yeah, he looks menacing. Those red eyes. He looks gross.
He kind of looks. I mean, he kind of looks kind of like what he ended up in the cartoon.
Pretty close.
He doesn't have the red eyes, but pretty close. Yeah.
And again, they have like that lower down torso. Like the legs aren't straight.
Because they had to keep him within that 3 1/4 inch or whatever it was. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys think about Leatherhead?
Leatherhead is a great figure, not the best character. Great figure though. I love the chomping action. That's always a fun gimmick.
Yeah, two things I remember about him is the way he was packaged. I think he was packaged in a profile kind of shot.
Yeah.
And I always felt he was a little undersized. I kind of wanted him kind of brooding over the turtles when I would play with them. But I mean, these characters in the second wave have gone on to be in the other series, so they're
Very iconic.
yeah, they're iconic characters for sure. Yeah, this second wave is incredible. They have their their things, their little nitpicks that we might have, but overall, just.
But yeah, if this is even one of the lesser characters, this is still a great character for
Yeah.
a toy line.
I just always like looked at him from like the cartoon perspective, where he was, like you were saying, he was towering over the turtles and he was like really bulky. And then like when you see the cartoon, you try to replay it and you have this figure, it's like, oh, this doesn't really work.
Yeah.
But that's just my experience with this one. How about Krang?
Krang is classic. Krang is one of those where I shouldn't really like him because he's kind of like an amalgam of the Utroms, but I actually like him better than I love his personality.
Yeah.
I love his character. Even his little thing we get here, his little gimmick that he's only in like a few episodes until he gets his body or whatever. That was always a fun toy. And I mean, it was weird that we never got his body until like way down, like 4 or 5 years into the line, I think it was, where they actually finally released that.
Yeah, and there were two versions.
Well, they
one and a
bigger one very early on. I think maybe wave 3 or 4.
Yeah, okay.
And then they did like a smaller version where it was already in, but you could actually pop this one into like the big Krang android body.
But I mean, even for a simple figure like this, it looks great.
Yeah. The arms on my the robot arms on mine kept falling off though.
Well,
yeah, they weren't too tight.
But still, I love the colors. I love how you can see like the little, even though this was in the cartoons, I don't think you could see like the little blue veins.
Yeah,
all over his body.
They were there, but they weren't as prominent.
Pronounced,
as here. Yeah, pronounced. Yeah.
Looks evil.
Metalhead. Also.
Metalhead, I love the design.
Yeah, favorites.
Looks great, especially with that. What is it? The vacuum seal, whatever you call the
vacuum seal. Yeah.
Always a classic.
Metalized. Yeah.
I bet you that one's not as cheap nowadays to get your hands on. That's probably one of the more. I don't know. I wouldn't know, but
maybe to get complete. But I mean, those first waves were like million sellers.
Was they? Okay, yeah. So I'd love to get my hands on a classic one of those.
I guess like if you want, I don't think like the chrome got too affected on this toy, but I'm not sure. Like it says it's common over here.
Oh, well, there you go.
I guess like getting them with all the accessories that would be more difficult, but
and then getting one that doesn't have like the chipped vac metal stuff also.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I'd be worried about. It was a great looking figure though. Great.
Yeah, if you're like a minty loose. Yeah.
Love the colors on this one as well.
Yeah, not another retro channel says he loves the light feature at the top of his head. So he's got, if I remember correctly, he has like pipe lighting or something.
Yeah, it comes in. I think, like over here, you can see the eyes.
Yeah, or maybe it was just a plastic that they used was kind of translucent or something.
Yeah, it was like a translucent. So like
over on the top of the head.
That was a classic feature they put in a lot of those kind of characters where you just like you put it under the light or something like that, and you caught it just right. It would make them glow.
Yeah. Well, one thing about these first two waves, like even though they don't have like play features like the superpowers had, there is a lot of play functionality with them.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and then they that's what they did. Like they tried to introduce like a gimmick, or what they call it was a wacky action thing. So they kind of like started kid bashing the original turtle and then sculpted around the kid bash. And then you got the wacky actions like the rock and roll Michelangelo here.
These are some of my least favorite.
Yeah, I skipped all these. I still had my original
These,
4.
when I got
only
these,
got the
it
Mouser.
was, I think I got these for that Christmas, and I felt like I got a bunch of Happy Meal toys.
Yeah.
But they did have eyes this time, so
they
a little
did.
bit more cartoon accurate.
Yeah, and again, unfortunately, their action feature made them pretty difficult to even put into any kind of the vehicles, so it was not like an upgrade in that sense. But I mean, you could definitely tell they were starting to aim more towards kids now with these for sure.
Break fighting Raphael.
That one was probably one of the better ones, I think. Just because that kind of like emulated something they did in the movie, so I remember that one being a more popular one.
But the weapons seem useless.
Yeah, useless. This is when they started getting to goofier weapons, but I remember Donnie was the like one of the least of my favorites because of the legs.
Either he didn't work or the legs fell off.
Yeah, they fell off all the time.
You know?
Oh, I did have this one.
He did float.
Yeah. I remember playing in my bathtub with this guy, so I did get him.
What was Leo's feature? For some reason, I forgot that one.
Well, Leo, he came out like a year later because the first wacky action.
Okay, so he was. Yeah, okay, that's why I don't remember him. All right,
but like to me, he's like the worst looking one out of that. Like
that's why I don't remember him.
His face is just like, I don't want to be here. Oh no, that one hasn't updated yet.
Okay, no problem. Sword slicing. Okay, yeah, I don't remember that one at all. But then when you saw the Mouser there, that was always just a favorite of mine, just in general.
Yeah,
great design.
A bit bigger than I would have liked him, but I love the walking feature.
Yeah, I didn't mind that so much. It would have been nice to have one that didn't have the walking part, just so you could, it was close.
It would have been cool to get like a 3-pack or something.
Yeah,
you could throw together with your Baxter stock and
with some rats you can put in their mouths and shit.
Well, they came with these little cardboard thingies. But,
we felt so cheated as kids.
I think a lot of these broke as well. Like it's very hard to find these now. You can find them on card pretty easily, but finding them loose.
Well, that was the thing that kind of with this line that made it feel the action part of them was they felt like the cheap Happy Meal kind of toy level stuff. The plastic wasn't as solid, so they could do the feature, and as they're much more brittle, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you said we were cheated as kids. Maybe that's why modern collectors our age today are
absolutely
taking it out on like the companies today.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we are spoiled today. Like, there's a lot of them I buy, and it's like, why would you buy that? It's like, well, because this is what I wanted when I was a kid.
yeah, totally. Yeah. But if they market and sell to adult collectors, it's kind of they have to expect some of it.
Absolutely.
Backlash,
Yeah.
Sword Slice and Leo actually did come with a sword, but it had like a snake wrapped around it in a pizza.
Yeah, I remember that
point at the end.
That was terrible.
Well, that's when the parents groups really started. Well, that's the thing, because like they came out of nowhere, like we were saying. So the first wave of Ninja Turtle stuff was hands off with the parents groups and all that kind of stuff. Then the parents groups got involved, and they're like, "Oh, you can't be having this." And even that goes to the whole hero turtle thing, like you brought up from the very start, was just because of the connotation or whatever you want to call it of the word ninja, and the fact that it basically means assassin. They're like, "Oh, we can't have that in the title." So just the fact that outside of the U.S. and a few rare places, it was Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles in most places.
Yeah, I mean, for Europe and the UK, it was because like nunchucks and ninjas were like a bad word, or like villainous, like perceived as villainous by like the BBC FCC thing.
Well, I think nunchucks were actually very illegal for a while too.
Yeah, that's
Ed,
but like in France, it was just called Tortue Ninja, so it had ninja in the title.
Ed, is that still a thing today? Like as far as like selling those kind of toys to kids, like is like nunchucks and the word ninja still like outlawed in like the UK or wherever, or wasn't accepted?
I'm not sure if they changed it or not, but
I know when
I
the
actually
movie
haven't
came
checked
out,
like
they
if the
released
new
it.
ones. I think like the new ones even here in store, they're called Ninja Turtles.
I know when the movie came out over there, that for some reason they didn't change the title.
No, but they edited out
Yeah.
All of
Michelangelo's
Michelangelo's
Yeah.
nunchucks,
And they even edited out like in the second movie when he's using sausages as
which is
nunchucks.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because that was going to be the point I was going to get to. Is like, that's what's funny is when the parents group got involved in this stuff, and it really shows in that second movie. And as you get through the series, and I mean, part of the reason they quit having Michelangelo use the nunchucks in later episodes was because Fred Wolf's company was getting sick of animating two different versions, so they're just like, just give him the grappling hook all the time.
grapple hook.
Yeah.
And then they also had some. I think they were cool vehicles in the second wave. The pizza thrower. I love this thing.
That was a popular one.
Like you were saying before, I think there's supposed to be a little piece to hold on to for the turtle in question over here. That's missing on this picture. Oh, here it is. But I love this thing.
Yeah, it's great. The play feature on it is really cool too. It shoots out the pizzas, right?
Yeah, you can point it in any direction. So totally love this thing. And they tried reusing it for a couple more toy lines. This one, I think, like Chicken Run even had this. Yeah, in their toy line. Yeah, and at first it was supposed to be like red and yellow. So
didn't know that.
The Turtle Cycle.
Yeah.
Always a classic.
Came with a bucket.
I don't think I had this as a kid.
That was one I did have. Because that was the great thing about this line is they had, not only were the figures price pointed to where they were affordable, like, you know, you could actually talk your parents into getting one, or you could save up a few bucks and actually get one. They had the series of the line of the more affordable vehicles was great to have compared to a lot of toy lines at that time. To get a vehicle or one of the more, you know, other kind of accessories were really expensive sometimes and out of the reach of some kids. And it was just nice that this line was a bit more affordable than a lot of the other ones too, which probably added to its popularity in the end, I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't think like something like this what is it called, Turtle Cycle?
My recollection at the time was probably a price point of about $9.99.
Okay.
Maybe $14.99 at the most, and even then, I don't think it was that much. Because I think the Technodrome was even like, because I had that too, and that wasn't that bad.
But they really started to put out like these cheaper, like the crazy artillery stuff, like the retro catapult. Like,
I had this.
Yeah, and this stuff was
expensive,
always fun.
but it was fun to play with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's something that like the G.I. Joe lines and some of those didn't really have a lot of. I don't think. I mean, they had some vehicles, but even those were generally a little higher priced.
Did we start getting into the Ooze stuff?
Yeah, that was right off the bat because the Turtles came off of that Ooze craze.
We have the Flush-O-Matic over
there.
here.
You go. Yeah.
Because I mean, at this time you had Masters of the Universe and Ghostbusters all had kind of, you know, gone through the Ooze craze. So Ninja Turtles caught the end of that.
Yeah, the Ooze craze. Wow, I remember that being a thing.
Well, it was perfect for turtles, you know.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I had this one as a kid. I poured a lot of slimy through it, like the ghost looking slime thingy.
Yeah,
that was like, because we didn't get like the turtle ooze or the foot ooze over here in Belgium at least. Or well, it wasn't around when I was trying to find it. But I pumped so much slimy through this thing.
So you guys didn't get the standard stuff, or what did you get over there?
Maybe not all stores. Like where we used to go, it's a small like mom and pop store that I used to get all my turtles. They wouldn't have everything. Like I never saw a Technodrome, but
Yeah.
must have had it at the
Oh, I had
Turtle
this one
Plunger.
too.
Yeah. I never had this one. One thing that I want to mention is just the availability of these things. Like we live in a world now where everything's a Target exclusive or a Walmart exclusive. I mean, I used to be able to go to like my local pharmacy store or like a toy stationery store, as well as like a Toys R Us or a Kitty City, and buy these things too, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. But one thing that is funny though that we didn't really mention it before was like Toys R Us really got behind these, I guess. And that's one of the reasons why they took off. And it was just because they were so different from anything else they had at the time. So I guess that was one of the reasons why that first wave before the cartoon and everything really got popular. That's one of the reasons why it was just everywhere. So they did a great job.
They also had like a whole bunch of bathtub toys.
I didn't have this one.
Yeah, neither did I.
I think I had the other one with like the net, so the sewer party tube.
No, I don't have that. I don't remember this one either.
Some of it though, like if it's not already attached together, like as a kid, how do you put this thing together to make it work? Honestly. And what else do we have? We have the foot ski, which was also in some of the video games.
Yeah.
And that red pin on the front is always missing.
Yeah. Remember in the video game, you don't want to get caught in between those electric eels.
Yeah. Again, how funny is it that they turned that into eels? I just think that's so inventive. The harpoon. And did we? Oh yeah, we already had the Foot Cruiser this year.
Oh yeah,
this is some customizers have turned this into neutrino cars.
Neutrinos, I've seen that.
Was
basically so cool.
Yeah, I had this vehicle for many, many years after I stopped collecting turtles.
Pretty sure I had this too, yeah.
One thing I remember when I bought this, my mom bought me this Foot Cruiser, is by this point I had started collecting the Mirage comics, and I think maybe even the Archie comics might have been out at this time.
I was big in the Archie ones, yeah.
Yeah, those were great. I mean, but there was 3 issues of the original Mirage run. I believe it was like issue 31, and then it skipped to 35 and 36, where it was a self-contained story that had nothing to do with the original Mirage universe, and it was written and illustrated by an artist called Michael Zulli. And I recommend everyone go out and buy those 3 issues, because it's a total different interpretation of the turtles. They're more Zen-like. They're more like samurais, and it's black and white art using this this paper called Duo Shade, where it's like, I mean, I think even Eastman and Laird used it in the original. They did.
Yeah, in the first ones.
Yeah. It's basically like this paper that has like these invisible dots or invisible patterns that when you put a solution with a brush on it, it makes it activate and pop out. And he did this entire story. I mean, the art is beautiful. I can't recommend it enough. And it's just a weird antithesis to what the toys that were coming out at the time. There was a lot of backlash for these 3 issues. But I loved it. I loved the toys. It didn't matter to me that they were, brooding, like, murdering like foot soldiers and just like super violent, just a complete antithesis to like the cartoons in the toy line.
Yeah, it was something when I discovered the comics. It's like, holy cow. It's like, where did this come from, and why didn't we get this right away? It was like, what is this? It was like, wow.
Yeah,
it's just like, it's that thing you fantasize about in your head when you see the childlike version. You're like, oh, if this was grown up, and then you're like, oh, they did that first. Wow.
It's sad that the original comic line didn't last as long as like the cartoons or the toys.
Yeah, because then like
the Archie
comics take over and did like Turtles Adventures, which
something
was
like
more
that,
in line with the cartoon, I think.
Yeah. So,
yeah, I mean, the Archies were like basically right
sorry, I
off
was
the
going to say that's
cartoon.
Bebop and Rocksteady's first appearance in comics is through the Archie comics. Sorry, Tom.
No, you were right. I was just agreeing with you because, like, my recollection, I think the comics first started out, the first few issues were straight adaptations of a couple episodes, and then they just went off onto their own thing. So I remember Incredible Shrinking Turtles and one or two other episodes. I can't remember that were just adapted into comics. Yeah.
Kenny Whitty says he had a card game in the UK, which was basically Snap and came with half turtle shells. I don't remember that, but
I do remember the role-playing game.
Like everything, like even in the early years, like you had puzzles, you had so many board games. Turtles is everywhere. I even had like a backpack when I was in kindergarten with turtles on it. So
yeah, I wish I remembered the names of the advertising artists that Mirage used, because I think those guys, like the artwork on the backpacks and the t-shirts and all that, I mean, that is just, I mean, I feel like when people think of the old vintage turtles, that's kind of like the image of the turtles that they first have, along with like the cartoons. But yeah, just great.
From my recollection, that was just all the guys in the office at the time.
Yeah. They had
whoever was handy, because like, oh, like so and so, who is he doing? Oh, he's doing the t-shirt right now. Like, oh, okay, well, we need a poster design, and then they just have whoever do it. Like, yeah, it was just they just randomly grab whoever wasn't busy, because I can't remember all the original artists, but there was only like 4 or 5 of them or whatever that were there. Yeah.
I think also just the stuff that's on the box art of the toys. That's like so neatly done. That's why I collect like the vehicles in box, because they're just awesome. We do have one more big thing that came out in '89.
Still holds up.
And as far as playsets go, I mean, it doesn't like really fit the playset like a Castle Grayskull would do, or because it's basically like a sewer.
It's an oddball.
It's a very weird playset. It really looks like a display set, honestly, to me. How do you guys feel about it? Like, Alex, did you have this one back in the day?
Yeah, and my friend had one, and we used to connect them together. And then when the Technodrome came out, you could connect it to the Technodrome. I love this thing. I mean, if I should really buy another one, vintage one, just because for me it still holds up. You have so many. You have basically 3 rooms if you count the top, or 3 different areas. You know, where turtles can sleep or Splinter can meditate. Then you have the street. The street scene at the top. I don't know about the electric poles, about the swinging function that it has. I my turtles always used to crash right straight through the ground, but I love this thing. I love the scope, the hydrant scope. Just love this thing.
I think.
Sorry, go ahead, Tom.
No, I was just gonna say, I think you said it perfectly. It's more of a display kind of thing than it is a play set, a display set. I like that. Because I think the functionality of it speaks more to it than the actual size in the first glance at it. And like you said, Alex, like I remember a lot of us, if we had it as a kid, we just connect them, because then it felt like you had a much bigger play set that way. Sorry, you were going to say, Ed, my bad.
Oh, no. I was going to say, like, I used to pop like a guy, like a bad guy behind the elevator on the first floor, and then have like a turtle hit it. But I would also have my turtle van right next to it, so you could like swing into the turtle van. And this was like always set up in our living room when I was a kid. Like the turtle layer was there like all the time. I think Batman and He-Man, they came to visit, or Toxic Crusaders a little later on. But that was always there. I'm very fortunate to still have mine from childhood.
Oh, yeah?
with like Jurassic Park stickers all over it, but it's mine and I love it. So yeah.
The T-Rex visited the Ninja Turtles sometime? Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, I had like small stickers of Jurassic Park. So there's like Jurassic Park stickers all over the playset.
So it's like to scale posters or graffiti or something of
Yeah,
Jurassic Park.
indeed. Like it looked like, oh, there's like promo for Jurassic Park.
Yeah, I used to pour ooze down that sewer pipe.
Yeah.
Didn't really do anything. The turtles basically had to be laying down on their backs in order to get slimed. But those tubes, man, it created so many opportunities with with my friends' sewers, and just so many display options. Loved it.
What was even cooler is I think they were like my cousin had like one of those Marble Madness sets or whatever where the tubes were like the same exact size.
Oh yeah,
so we could actually extend them out and do like some curves and other weird stuff with them. Yeah, it was kind of fun. Just kind of extend it out and make it look cooler.
Yeah,
but yeah, the only thing that always stuck out to me though was the girly picture in the tube there. It's like that was a little risque for a kid's toy, but hey.
Yeah, you know what? I didn't notice that until I was much older.
Where did they have it?
It was inside the orange pipe. The one where the turtle would just sit inside it.
Yeah. I don't know if it's in one of these.
I don't know if they show a picture of it here, yeah,
but I remember like the sand buggy. It had like this sexy girl turtle with like a surfboard on it on the side, which was also like pretty quirky. Like, oh, they got away with that. That's so cool.
Now with these larger items, guys, did you have your parents help you put this stuff together, or did you just put it together yourself?
Depending on how complicated it was. Now something like this was something I could probably do by myself at that
time.
I
remember doing this myself too.
But now if I remember right, the Technodrome I probably needed a little help with. But at that point, like, yeah, I was getting old enough to where, like, yeah, it was pretty much my own.
I probably needed help in the beginning, but I learned how to put it together.
Or something. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. No, yeah. For a playset though, this was I don't think this was a very expensive one either. So that was another great part about it, because I think I got a lot of this stuff that second year, yeah, for Christmas or whatever.
It's expensive now.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it is now.
What's it go for now?
Yeah,
the original, because they re-released it once or twice after, I believe.
I guess like loose, like $100.
I was gonna say, plus if you got to worry about it has all the pieces. That's the bigger part. You could probably get it loose without all the pieces pretty cheap, but
yeah. And it's funny too with all these older play sets, like even like the USS Flag, and it's how like people have, like if you go on eBay, you can find the smallest piece that you didn't even know detached from the bigger piece that was attached to, and people are just selling that. It's just crazy how in the weeds collectors have become with this stuff, and how every little piece matters.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, Retro Blasting did a great video on the restoration of one. One of my favorites.
Yeah, and apart from the Technodrome and the sewer playset, those were all the playsets they put out. So
yeah,
what else did you need though? Really, I mean,
yeah,
unless they came out with like
Channel 6, maybe.
Yeah,
Vern's office.
Yeah, it would just basically be like a couple offices and like a control panel or something, maybe. But even that would be,
yeah.
The Channel 6 van was enough.
Yeah.
But that was way down the line from my recollection. Yeah. She was a play turtle till 1987.
The one with the surfboard.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. No, it was great toy line for the time. I mean, it just captured the zeitgeist perfectly. And I mean, again, for a lot of the sets and toys at that time that were a little bit more expensive, it was nice that it was one that was affordable for a kid. Like I said, you could save up your allowance and actually go get a figure just about every week. And At one point, it got extremely big, and I remember falling out outside of a few characters. But that first 2 lines, I think I had majority of the ones we checked into today. So that says a lot, I think, for a toy line, especially compared to some other ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, looking back on looking back on it now while we've been doing this show, I pretty much had all, maybe except for like the wacky action stuff. I did have the Mouser, but yeah, I mean, it's everlasting, still as popular today. I mean, the vintage toy line is as popular today with kids from back then as it's ever been. So, yeah.
What's cool is that they kept like every 2 years they tried reintroducing like a new type of turtles, and kids that got into like the 2003 or like what is it, like the Rise of and all those things. Like when you show a turtle, an original Playmates turtle, they're gonna go, oh, that's a turtle. I like that. I want to play with that, you know. Which is something that might be a bit different between like the original Master of the Universe toys and the 2000 X series. Yeah, those were like really different from
more ones, anime stylized.
Well, and that was something about turtles at the time. It was very unique. It was unlike anything we'd really seen as kids. I mean, you know, we had He-Man, we had G.I. Joe, we had Transformers. All those things were things that we'd all kind of seen before, even Ghostbusters to a point. When Ninja, like I said, the first time I saw Ninja Turtle, I'm just like, what in the world? You know, and it just, the whole, like, you just look at it. I mean, just it captures your eye. I mean, it's the simplicity of it. And that's one thing where you get later down the line where they just get more complicated with them. And I just consistently go back to the more simple versions of them. For some reason, the more you add to them, it just kind of takes away from the natural charm of them in a lot of ways. And even the little differences they added in this line to differentiate them, that was enough for me. You know, I don't think you need to go any farther than this, you know, really, in that sense. I mean, sure, I like more details and certain things like that and functionalities, but no, give me the regular old pads and the belts and I don't need all this excess, you know, padding on the arms and the glasses on Donatello and all that weird stuff. I don't need all that. That to me is just, it's not the Turtles. It's just extra.
Yeah, it's like Camnation is saying like the success of Turtles obviously created like so much stuff like Biker Mice, Street Sharks, Cowboys, Moose Mesa, Toxic Crusaders all of a sudden came up. All of those what is it called, anamorphic animals, is that the right name for it? I'm European. I don't speak so well, you know.
Better than I do, probably.
No. We got about like 15 more minutes, so if you guys in the chat want to really ask a pressing question, you still can, and I suggest you do it now. But
like Alex had one too.
Just about to ask a question.
Yeah, Tom, I wanted to ask you, since you were around back in the 80s, how much do you think the success of the Turtles also had? I mean, I know they came from the Frank Miller Daredevil run and all that stuff, but we were maybe at the tail end of like the whole ninja craze. How much do you think that fed into the popularity of the Turtles back then?
I think it had less to do with that. I mean, the original incarnation of the Turtles themselves did, obviously. Like, clearly Kevin and Peter were coming out of that 70s era where Bruce Lee and, you know, all that kind of stuff. Because I really feel like the Turtles fed into that next era more so than they were a product of. I think like the craze of like Jackie Chan and all that kind of stuff in the 90s.
The Canon films. What about like all those ninja movies and stuff like that?
Like I said, again, I feel like that fed more into the initial comic, because by the time the Ninja Turtle cartoon and stuff came around, ninjas were kind of just they were just like there, like, because you know, kids had moved on to other things. And you know, like even Bruce Lee movies and stuff like that weren't all. I mean, they were popular, but they weren't like the big thing, and there weren't a ton of ninja toys at that time. It was kind of way past its due date, as far as like, you didn't have a ton of ninja movies out every year at that point. And we would moved on to things like Kickboxer and stuff like that. I mean, if anything, what got me more interested in martial arts prior to the Turtles was Karate Kid. Than even some of the Bruce Lee stuff out of the set, because I didn't get really introduced to a lot of that till I was older. So again, I mean, the toy line, I don't think so much. I think it was just they looked at it like, this is a really cool looking thing, and I think kids will get into it. But again, yeah, no, clearly Eastman and Laird were initially making fun of the whole, kung fu craze out of the 70s for sure.
Yeah, and trying to mix it with like a stupid object like a turtle,
all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, and then they went into like, I guess it's more of like an homage to Frank Miller's Daredevil in the beginning.
Well, yeah, like it's all kinds of different stuff that like kind of just came together in a perfect storm.
Yeah,
I mean, that original story of how they made the Turtles is just hilarious. It's kind of like, one drunken night in November of '83. Yeah, they're just goofing around, and it actually started before that because they were talking about they were on a bus to someplace, I can't remember where they said, but they didn't want to go. Like, they wish we had some bus kicking turtles on the 108 because they were on and they're like, because the bus kicking turtles would kick the bus back into the direction they didn't want to, because they wanted to go home. So that was like the original kernel. And then one night they were just drawing turtles or whatever, and I think it was Peter first. No, it was Kevin first drew one with nunchucks strapped to its arms.
Yeah,
because he thought the idea of this slow moving animal was a ninja.
Yeah,
just the combination of the two oxymoronic ideas just sparked this idea, and then Peter's like, well, let me have a shot at it, and he did his version of it. So Kevin's like, well, I can do 4 of them that way and then give them different weapons, and he called them Ninja Turtles. And then Peter's like, well, let's call him Teenage Mutant, because at that time, X-Men, the mutants and all that kind of stuff were starting to get big again. And I'm sure that's where that part of it came. And then, of course, them being fans of Frank Miller and Daredevil, they just like, well, what happened after that incident? And then that's how they kind of backpedaled themselves into the origin story. And they've even said a million times over, if they ever thought it was going to go beyond that first comic, they would have never killed Shredder off. They would, it would have been a much different kind of concept in its later forms. I mean, and then you go down the road, and Peter was never too happy about how kiddie it got.
Yeah.
Kevin was always kind of there, just helping it along and just happy that it was around still. Peter seems like he's moved on quite a bit more than Kevin has, but they got together again though recently, which was great. And they're doing The Last Ronin now, which is awesome. I don't know if you guys have checked it out, but like,
you never
know.
Kevin Eastman, especially in my rookie years in the industry, he was known as like a rock star of comics, not because so much about like the stuff that he was putting out. I believe at that time he owned Heavy Metal magazine, but because he was just a wild child. I mean, when you go to conventions and Kevin Eastman was there, he was partying with Simon Bisley and all these other heavy metal comic book illustrators and writers, and just a crazy party. So
didn't he date Julie?
Julie Strain. He was married to her. I think she just passed away like 2 years ago or something.
Yeah, just recently.
Yeah. But Leo Convoy said something earlier in the chat where he said that the new, I believe he's referring to the rise of the TMNT cartoon series, is the best, or his favorite, I believe. I love the new series. I love all the series. I think 2002 or 2002, 2003 Turtle series, or the Nickelodeon 2012 might be the deepest as far as stories go. And as far as comic book accuracy, nothing beats like the 2003 series for me.
Yeah.
I wish I could say some nice things about the rise of the TMNT.
I mean, I definitely have my gripes with it. I don't like some of the changing that they did of the characters. I think some of them might be too young, but I don't know how this appeals to kids either, So, I mean,
I think this is the one that hasn't connected really very well, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I don't even know if they have a new season coming out or not.
I'm not sure on that. I know the toys have kind of been moved out of toy stores, though. I haven't seen any of the toys in a while.
The designs are very different,
Mhm.
for sure. The animation itself is very different. It's very modern, very almost like office. I feel like it's like a bunch of comedians like just, you know, gigging off of each other in a room. But there are certain things I do like the toys more than I like the series, just because as far as engineering, I think this is the best that Playmates has done. They don't have so much the fixed poses as they did in like the previous series. Makes them a little bit more posable. So for that, I do like the new series.
Right. Yeah. I mean, as
So,
far as the other series, yeah, they're. I'd go with the 2000 one. Probably is the better representation. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I like the first one, but I really like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Forever, like where they
That was
Oh
fun.
yeah,
different dimensions. I really like
was
that
fun.
one. That kind of like
Yeah.
introduced me to the newer ones and got me
Oh, yeah.
at least a little bit excited about those.
Yeah, that was the capper for the 2003 series, I believe. It was like the last episode that they
Kind
made.
of,
It
yeah.
was,
Yeah,
you went back to like the original comics in black and white.
Yeah, and they were like the
It was
violent
awesome.
ones out of all the
Yeah.
versions of the Turtles. But they did something like that for the 2012, where those turtles traveled back in time and got the OG cartoon turtles, and they're like in 3 dimensions. It's a really great story. I would check that out too again.
Yeah, the 2010s series, because I think it started in 2012. That one was one I was not really into, but I like watched a few episodes and I'm like, yeah, it's decent enough. It's obviously for younger kids. It's not for me.
Mhm.
So I was just like, it's mostly harmless. You know, so I had nothing bad to say about that one. But
Mhm.
the Rise, I don't know, it was just a bit too obnoxious for me and reminded me too much of the Michael Bay produced films.
Oh God, those things.
Yeah, which don't get me started on those.
Yeah. No, for me, as far as movies go, nothing will ever beat the 1990 movie. I love that soundtrack. I listen to it from beginning to end. I watch that movie at least a couple times a year, and it still holds up.
It's
just
done
love
as a real movie, not like targeted to kids.
Yeah.
It's so dark, but as a kid, you're like, oh, they actually exist. It's real. I thought they were real. Like,
Yeah.
They did a great job
from watching
between-
that movie.
And it has that martial arts thing really entrenched in it, because I believe they used like Hong Kong like choreographers, like stuntmen and stuff like that.
Well, it
too.
actually has a bit of a history to it, not to go too deep into that, but
Mm.
Golden Harvest picked up the rights to the movie separate of
Mhm.
everything else. And Golden Harvest is the company that produced all the Bruce Lee films and a lot of Jackie Chan movies and stuff like
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
And that was their whole idea. It's like, well, we can do this. We'll just put a couple of our stunt guys in turtle costumes.
Mhm.
They had no idea what they were getting themselves into. So then, they had to get a studio involved, and that's where everybody said nope. Disney, nope. Warner, nope. All of them like, we're not getting involved in this. Ninja Turtles are on the way out, because this was going into the 3rd year of the franchise now.
Yeah.
And they're like, nah, it's on the way out. Well, New Line Cinema's like, Robert Shea had no idea what the Ninja Turtles were, and I can't remember. I think it was Sarah Risher in the office, who had like a 10-year-old at the time.
Mhm.
And he goes, what's this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle thing? They want like $6 million. And she goes, oh, the Ninja Turtles? My kid loves those.
Mhm.
I got him all the toys last year for Christmas. He's like, all right, give it to him. And that's how we got it. It was just like that. It was just that random. And it became the highest grossing independent film of all time until Blair Witch Project came out almost 8 years later or whatever. But
Yeah.
Because we're gonna have to shut it down.
Yeah.
Quickly to keep up the schedule with all the other stuff going on. But Jody asks on behalf of Leah Convoy, what is the little pocket on vintage Donnie's belt for? I have no clue. Probably something that has to do with machines, but don't know. There were a couple more questions, like what is your favorite turtle action
Mikey
figure?
Probably.
Mikey? Leo. Mine is Storage Shell Raphael.
Yeah, the storage shells are pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then just to finish off, I like to give you each just a couple more words about what you have going on, where people can find you, and which other panels you're doing this week. So Tom, Go ahead, buddy.
Well, we have a sword and sorcery panel tomorrow morning. I believe that's on our channel, and you can find us at Midnight's Edge and Midnight's Edge After Dark and all our various other sister channels out there. And I want to thank you, Ed, for having me here, and I want to thank everybody at Retro Blasting for putting this together. It's been a lot of fun, and thank you for having me.
Alex.
You can find me, like I said before, every Friday night at 8 p.m. Eastern on the Infinity Equation podcast. And if you go to your local comic book store, you can probably find something I've just recently finished. So, like I said, G.I. Joe, you can find me on Instagram, Ironhead77. And yeah, thanks, Ed, for hosting this. Thanks, Tom, for being just a swell guy and providing me with many hours of joyful content every week. And thanks to everyone in the chat. And I will be on later today at 4. I'm going to be on an 80s metal panel with Melinda from Retro Blasting. And I believe it's on the Retro Blasting channel. And also thanks to Tony from Analog Toys, who's put in a lot of work with ICONICON. So thanks, guys.
Oh, yes.
This was amazing. I think we could keep talking for like 3 more hours.
I know.
This has been
we should
so
do like season
enjoyable.
3 and season 4 next
Oh,
season.
yeah. Maybe like when we do the 90s,
seriously.
we can do a couple panels.
Yeah.
I'll be in the heavy metal one as well.
Oh,
a
nice.
little bit later.
Cool.
So it's going to be awesome. Thanks so much for watching, guys, in the chat. You've been amazing. Sorry I couldn't get to every comment, but yeah, I just love talking turtles. So I hope to see you in the next video. And yeah, enjoy ICONICON's next live stream or premiere. See you guys later. Bye.